It took me going away for a few days and visiting another church to realize how much I really missed you guys. I think I texted Pastor in the middle of the service and I said, Pastor, I wish I was home. I miss you. And that's not saying anything was wrong with that church. It's just I love being here with you guys. I love you. I love you. Each and every face, every hug, everybody. I love each and every one of you. And Pastor did ask, at a very strange hour yesterday night, to say a few words. And whenever someone's asked to say a few words, you go through your Rolodex of your mind. Should you do a testimony? Should you preach? Should you go down from the bottom of your soul like Brother Lass does and give you a word? But the Lord kept bringing me back over and over and over to the same prayers and things that I've said to him over the years, is I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. And no matter what situation, no matter how good and great I become, I want more of you. And in Psalm 63, if Sister Sound Lady can throw up Psalm 63 for me, the story of David as he finds himself in the wilderness. And there's a lot of stories in the Bible. We know the children of Israel spent 40 long years in the wilderness, a journey that should have taken them just 11 days on foot, or camel, or donkey, I'm not sure. But 11 days, but they wandered in circles for 40 years. Right. Part of it was disobedience, part of unbelief, part of idolatry, and part of it is God was using them to show us today what life without him would look like. Imagine wandering without a GPS, going somewhere, you know where it is. I know it's on the left side of this road and turn left, but I can't remember where I'm going. And it might have been on the street over, right? Without a GPS, it's sometimes hard to get from where we're going. Amen? And we also find Jesus in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. He fasted. The Bible said, and he was a-hungered. Boy, I know his belly was growling. But after he came out of the wilderness, he was tempted. And through the Spirit of God that was in him, he was able to resist and overcome the devil. We also find John the Baptist. Why was he in the wilderness when he was a child of a priest? I don't know, but he said he ate wild locusts and honey. But his ministry, come see a man, right? This is a man whose shoes I am not even worthy to unlatch. And this is the Son of God. How in the wilderness, in his locust and honey diet, it's not keto, it wasn't low carb, but some kind of diet out there. But yet still God revealed to him in the wilderness who Jesus was. So David, after taking his kingly position, after Saul was rejected, his son decided to, what we would say, organize a coup, saying, I can do this job a little better than my father. And his son Absalom decided, I'm going to kill my father to take his throne. So in fear for his life, we find David in the wilderness. And Psalm 63 rehearses the words and the thoughts and sentiments of a man in desperation. A man in the backside of the wilderness, left his concubines and wives, sheep, cattle, riches, his children, and found himself in a dark and dry place. But look what he says. You and I always say this, I would complain because I'm a complainer. Ooh, my bed is too hard. Ooh, the air conditioner's not hot enough. How come this toilet paper's not soft enough? I thought it said it was 2-ply, right? I just like to complain. And that's what we find ourselves doing. But David, in the wilderness, away from his children, his riches, fearing and running for his life, he didn't find one complaint. But he said in 63 of Psalms, verse 1, O God, thou art my God. So let's stop. He didn't say, oh God, help me. Oh God, kill my son. Oh God, come rescue me. Oh God, why am I here? He said, oh God, thou art my God. He acknowledged that the God of this universe Even as harsh and how horrible his circumstances were, the God of this universe was still my God. He didn't even feel forsaken. A king in the wilderness. He didn't even feel forsaken. But he acknowledged that the God that made the heaven, the earth, the bees, the birds, the trees was still his God. And he said, early will I seek thee. Now historians and commentators say early in this context means I am earnestly looking for you. I'm afraid of missing you. So David, again, king, out of his kingly palace in the wilderness, his lips are probably dry by now, hot as ever, skin burning or thirsty and hungry. He said, early and earnestly, with all that I have, and I'm afraid of missing you. At his lowest, he still was afraid of missing God. God, I don't want to miss you right now. You might be talking to me. You might want me out in this wilderness for a reason, for a purpose, and I don't want to miss it. And I refuse to complain. I refuse to sit here and say all sorts of things about my son, because I could. After all, I took part in his making, but I don't want to miss you. What are you trying to say, God, in this moment? So early and earnestly and diligently, I am going to seek you. My soul thirsted for thee. Now, he's in the desert. Okay, I'm at work sometimes and I sit down at my desk 8 hours a day, don't even get up to, use the bathroom and drink some water, and my thirst is kind of, my throat gets kind of dry. But this guy is out again in the desert, and instead of complaining about his lack of water, he's saying, my soul, in my circumstance, in my situation, far from my comfortable bed, far from the streams of well of water that I'm sure he could have just snapped his finger and someone would have came and give him. He says, my soul is thirsty. And I have found myself in situations where I have had to go down on my knees and say, God, all I need right now is you. I could ask for more money because the bills are here and the paycheck kind of down here somewhere, right? I have other needs and desires that are good and maybe even godly, but my soul is so thirsty for you that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. And I feel like David at this point said, it doesn't even matter if I go back to the palace. It doesn't matter if my son changes his mind and comes to his senses and said, Dad, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. My soul is thirsty for you. And my flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. So he knew his present circumstance. My bills are this high. My circumstances are this bad. My husband is that annoying. My children are actually really getting on my nerves. And my job is horrible. I need a new one. But my soul, every part of my being, all I want is you. A new husband, more kids, more money. It will be great for the moment. But my soul is thirsty. And there's no water here. And we know where the water is. The Bible says it shall come from your belly, shall flow rivers of living water. So even in the palace, he would still say there's no water here. And his present circumstance, literally, there is no water here. But his soul was not thirsting and hungering and longing and desiring for his circumstance to get better. The only remedy to his current situation was his God. And what was he hungry for? Someone might ask. Other than seeing his God, he said, to see thy power, verse 2, and thy glory, as I have seen thee in thy sanctuary. I have been many Monday afternoons after a hot service. I mean, even death could not. I mean, we sweat up and down the pulpit, and the altar is full of tears. And then Monday you just find yourself so dry, so hardened by life. Same issues you have to go home to. But David is still saying, God, what I need right now is still more of you. Still more of you. And I pray this prayer. I have wept tears bitterly in that prayer room, that God, I need more of you. No matter the levels of life, no matter the depths of issues that I have to dig myself out of, God, all I need and want and desire is more of you. And even David said in verse 3, because thy loving kindness is better than life. God's unfailing love. Without it, I might as well not be here. I can go back to the palace. I can have all the wives. I can have all the wine. I can be fed with grapes, with people fanning me with leaves. I don't find that comforting to me, but they might. I can have everything I could go back to. But even going back to the palace, without God's love and mercy and favor and hope in my life, it makes no sense. Because thy loving kindness, unfailing love of God. Because I think David stopped and said, you know, my son is just flesh. And even if not this son, maybe the next son. I don't know how much sons David had. He had so much concubines, I'm sure there was plenty. But it's like, at some point, somebody else is going to disappoint me. At some point, someone's going to hurt me. At some point, some church brother, church sister is going to say something that might not be that kind to me. And at that point, I may feel like walking out and checking out of this life. But it's like, regardless of what and who and how and whatever happens to me, that life with God is better than life without him. And come what may for David at this point, he still had a heart and a desire for the Lord. Verse 5, my soul shall be satisfied as with marrow and fatness. Commentaries say, how can a man sitting in the middle of the wilderness is thinking about a nice juicy steak and chewing bones? He must have been delusional. But he said, my soul, when I think of the goodness of Jesus, even though he had no Jesus at the time, we do. And to think of the goodness of the Lord, and I think of all that he has done. I think of all his wonderful and his mercy and his grace, and my life being spared, and me becoming a king, and being a shepherd boy sitting on the backside of a mountain with my father's sheep. And look at me now, even all that has happened. My soul is satisfied and still happy, as if I had eaten a nice juicy steak in the middle of this hot desert. So not even food could satisfy him, because he's thinking about all that God has done for him. And it just makes him more hungry, and not for food, not for pleasures, but of the Lord. Verse 6, and when I remember thee upon my bed. Again, David, what bed? You are in the middle of a desert. Must be sticks and stones. That's all he had out there. But he said, and I meditate on thee in the night watches, even when my head is on a stony ground. This stony ground feels like a bed when I'm thinking about Jesus. When I'm thinking about how good and great he is, it doesn't matter where I'm putting my head down. It doesn't matter. As long as I have Jesus, as long as I have the goodness and the unfailing love of God. This hard ground, this scorching sun feels like a Posturepedic right now. Feels like a Tempur-Pedic. Feels like I'm putting my feet up. That's what he was thinking. Can you imagine if any one of us today was out in a desert? Do you think we'd have anything good to say about the Lord? But yet, in the middle of a desert, David, whether he was daydreaming or at this point delusional, his mind didn't wander to killing his son, to revenge, all that he could do or would do when he gets back. He didn't even ask God to come and save him, but he used the time to reflect on the Lord. And out of his reflection, it was revealed to him that nothing and no one in this life could satisfy me but you. So that's why he said, "O God, thou art my God, and earnestly will I seek thee." Even if you let me go back to the palace, and even if you make me stay out here, I'm still going to seek thee. My soul thirsted for thee. Even when I have wine galore, I will still thirst for thee. And my soul is still hungry for thee. My flesh still longs for you. I'm going back, or may not go back, to wives and concubines and friends and notoriety, but my heart is crying out for you. How much of us today, living not in a wilderness, we have a nice bed to go home to, we have a job to go to work to, but we think our issues are that much great that we turn our back on God and we start complaining. And our hearts are never turned to the Lord. I want more of you. I need more house. I need more land. I need another car. I need another husband, Lord. I need another child, right? Things go through your mind. Things go through your mind. A lot of things go through your mind. But let it not be said that out of all that you wanted and all that you desired, your desires were never towards the Lord. So tonight, if your heart is not in the place of desire, turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, for the things of this world will grow faintly dim in the light of his glory and grace. Find, seek, desire earnestly. Delight yourselves in the Lord, because no matter where you are in life, on the top of a hill or in the valley, your soul will always hunger and thirst for God. And that God-sized void will never be filled with anything in this world. Never be satisfied until God becomes your God. Amen? So these are my thoughts. And I'm praying for each and every one of you tonight, and myself, because I too have found myself in a mode of complaining, in a mode of not looking towards God, when the word says clearly to seek him first and his righteousness, and all these things, the new house, the new job, the peace that you desire, the hope that you desire, a husband, not a new one, because God's going to fix the one you have. God to show up in a situation, healing, whatever you need, he has it. He has it. But the Bible does say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things, every desire, every hope, every dream could be fulfilled in abundance. He said he gives exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. But we first have to seek him. Amen.